What's going on, y'all? It's JD Piquel. Today on the Hard Count, Quinn Ewers has decided to transfer to Texas. What does this mean for the Longhorns as well as the rest of the college football landscape? Welcome into CFB with JD, the People's Channel, for every single thing that you know that you love about college football. It all exists right here, and we do it nearly every single day. Armstrong, Zins, Jack McKenzie, they make it all happen. So here's the deal. Quinn Ewers, one of the highest rated recruits in the history of the sport, is headed to Texas. Obviously transferred from Ohio State to the Texas Longhorns. There was some smoke about him going to Texas Tech. In a previous video, I said, hey, I think that's probably what's best for him. Get out of the spotlight, get out of the limelight. Nonetheless, Quinn Ewers is going to do what Quinn Ewers wants to do. He's headed to Austin. A lot of things to unpack here as to how it impacts him, how it impacts the rest of the college football landscape, how it impacts the Big 12, and more specifically, what it means for Texas. So let's just start there. What does it mean for Texas right now? Quinn Ewers walking into a program that's going to be rebuilding, okay? I say rebuilding, probably even more than rebuilding, resetting. Steve Sarkisian wasn't shy about it. He said we could have 30 new players on our roster next year from the transfer portal, is what was implied. They're going to make moves in the portal, Quinn Ewers being the biggest move they've made. And that's going to be interesting to see. Okay, it's not a era of college football where you have to, recruit a bunch of freshmen and then wait for them 3 years to eventually get to a spot where they're physically mature enough and able to play the game. No, you can revamp your program through free agency right now in the portal, and Quinn Ewers, the biggest piece of that. So they're resetting their whole roster. What does that mean for him and his development? Is he going to be a guy that thrives in kind of the anarchy and the ground zero of what Texas football is right now? I say ground zero. They were 5-7 this year. They didn't make a bowl game. It's hard to argue they're not at ground zero right now. You got to reset, and that's fine. It's not a bad place to be, but it does present some challenges, especially for a quarterback who likely will be in his first year starting. That's the next thing to look at. You got a lot of talented dudes on the roster if you're Texas. They didn't win you a bunch of ball games, but they're still talented nonetheless. You got Hudson Card, Casey Thompson, who really took control of the job for the most part last year. And then you got a 4-star quarterback from Southern California and Malik Murphy, who's set to be on campus. 2022 class, a guy who had a lot of hype in his incoming to University of Texas, big arm. He's still committed as of right now. Obviously, this news is very fresh. We'll see if he flips before signing day, but he's been a hard commit for the most part to Texas. I'd be surprised if he switched. I think the guy's going to go in there redshirt and just wait his turn behind yours, but I don't think it's realistic to say you can have all 4 guys on your roster come this time next year. Don't think that's a reality. Unfortunately, that's just what you get right now in college football. The free agency market, it's a reality, and it's going to benefit Texas in the same way. I think that's another piece to look at. For Quinn Ewers in Texas, you now have a really strong recruiting piece for everybody else that's in the portal or thinking about going in the portal and coming to Texas. Steve Sarkisian now has his guy to run his RPO offense. I just mentioned these 3 other quarterbacks, Card, Thompson, Murphy, all phenomenal ball players. All guys that have proven they can play football at the highest level. How well, still to be determined. Malik Murphy is a guy that could fit this offense really well, but Quinn Ewers being the highest rated prospect since Vince Young, he's your guy that's going to start for you, if not day one, very, very early in the process and very, very early in the season for Texas. And he's the perfect fit from a skill set standpoint for this offense. So to bring that all back home, they're going to get a lot of people on the offensive side of the ball that are going to want to come and play with Quinn Ewers. Steve Sarkisian, already a great recruiter. He's going to get his guys in the door, going to get his guys from the portal into the door. But people are going to be excited to play with one of the best quarterbacks on paper to enter the college ranks. That's just a fact. So we have the reset. How does that impact Ewers? We have the transfer portal. How much does that help Texas, which Ewers obviously being the biggest piece of that. But my concern is still out there a little bit with Quinn Ewers and the whole Quinn Ewers story, even more so the Quinn Ewers timeline. Because if we look at the timeline, it feels like, if you're Texas, you are inviting more of what has kind of been an issue for you thus far. Fair to say. What has been an issue for this far is guys that want to capitalize on NIL money, guys that are more concerned about the NFL than anything else, and guys that are just up for their social media presence, their own stock. Now, I don't know Quinn Ewers. I've never personally met Quinn Ewers. Couldn't tell you the first thing about him from a conversation with him. Never had one of those. What I will say is the guy decided on his own accord to skip his senior season of high school football, where his team could have competed for a state title. They made the state title his junior year, And he said, no, I want to go make some NIL money. I got to go. Kombucha money's calling me. Goes to Ohio State. And that's fine. Like, more power to you. But that does tell me a little bit about how much you love football. Because I guarantee you there's a lot of guys out there, myself included, who would not sell you our senior season for any amount of money. That's just a fact. So for Quinn Ewers, I'm questioning just a little bit. And I said this before we got to Texas. This is not a knock on Texas. I'm questioning a little bit. Do you love football or do you love being recruited? Because this is now the third time you committed to a school. Texas originally, then to Ohio State, and now back to Texas. So 2 schools, but 3 different times you've committed to a school. What does that tell us? At some point, the recruiting process ends when you commit, right? When you commit, coaches stop calling. The attention, for the most part, goes away. Coaches don't really stop calling, but the attention goes away quite a little bit, all right? We've seen he likes that attention, or at least it can be inferred that he likes that attention. So bringing it back again, if you're Texas, you are, in a lot of ways, bringing back at the most important position on your football team someone who has shown they are excited about the things that come with football, which has been the problem. You get guys on your roster that like football, but seem to really like some other things that come with football. Again, I don't know the first thing about Quinn Ewers personally. I've never met him. I've never looked him in the eye and shaken his hand. Kid's a teenager. He's probably making a lot of the same mistakes that most teenagers make. He's just got more eyes on him. So let's be fair there. Bottom line, he is the best recruit to ever come out of the recruiting cycle in the modern era. And in terms of recruiting rankings and since we've given grades to these kids, he is a 100, which is, I think, one of 6 players ever to get that award or to get that ranking. So he's going to be a success. How much of a success he's able to be, I think, depends a lot on what Texas can build out around him. But he's in the right offense. I truly believe he's in the right coach. Is he in the right program right now to allow him to capitalize on all the potential that he has so naturally? So that's it for us here on The Hardcat. We're going to keep this party rolling. Would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. We are going to be breaking down every single bowl game to make sure that you are both making money and able to keep up with all of the things that you should be watching for as you jump into the beautiful thing that is bowl season. Subscribe. We don't want you to miss a minute of that. As I just mentioned, the party will roll on. We will see y'all next time.